Hello and welcome to A Celtic World, a YouTube channel and podcast made by Celtic fans all over the world, for Celtic fans all over this great big world. And we're back. We're back from having been away for a few episodes. Good to see you all again. Good to see the familiar face of David in Vietnam. Hello, David.
Good evening, and I shall be thinking of my fair lady through the entire show and enunciate everything. So everybody tell me if they can hear me properly. Gav's already given me a lecture.
Well, we've had one or two little microphone issues, but hopefully they won't be a problem. And the slightly less familiar, but not for the first time, Eddie in Thailand. Hello, Eddie. Welcome back.
Hi, everyone. Hail, hail. Nice to be back, Gavin. Thank you very much for inviting me back. It was some time ago that I was on, but it's good to be here.
Yes, you were on before when it was the episode on Bangkok CSC, or as you like to put it,
the world famous Bangkok Celtic Supporters Club. Yes, that's right, with David, who's now a regular one of the presenters.
There's the ever hilarious Monty saying he can clearly hear David and Gav, unfortunately.
Well, hopefully he can hear me too.
Yes, indeed. Now, speaking of humour, I have to pick Paddy Lavery up for this comment that popped in before we even went live. If Gav was to grow a moustache, he would be the spit of Desmond. Don't know where you get that from. I should grow my locks out at the side, shouldn't I? Well, it's not like I run the show like Dermot runs Celtic, David, is it? Is it?
Not at all. Not at all, Gav. Honest, Governor.
All right. Well, hello to everyone in the comments. How you all doing? Everyone's loud and clear, including David, including Eddie. All right. So, what are we going to talk about today, lads? Well, there's quite a lot to get through. Well, obviously, why don't we have a look at the thumbnail? That's always a good place to start. Hail Martin, Hail Mary is the thumbnail, the title of the thumbnail. And there you can see Desmond and Nicholson in front of the bin fire, or the dumpster fire that is this season. And contrasting images of our manager past and manager present. So we haven't really dealt with this whole he's been sacked and O'Neill's back, haven't we? There hasn't been a show since that happened. This is the first time. Things happen so quickly. We do 2 shows a week. And sometimes when the show comes around, there's seismic events have occurred. So is relief the feeling? We're all feeling that O'Neill is back in charge and it's the end of the experiment with Nancy. David?
I continue to have a certain apathy that I gained when Nancy was in control. He was the manager. I'd had anger for quite some time because we knew it was all coming, and we told them so. And they blamed us, and our anger got worse. And then we were told to remember Jock Stein, and I got more angry. And then you just get fed up being angry all the time, and I got apathetic towards it. We knew everything was going, and I haven't. Yes, I'm happy Martinoneill is back, but I haven't been able quite yet to shake off what I need to from the Nancy era, the month that was.
Yeah, it was crazy, wasn't it, Eddie? How are you feeling that it's done?
It was absolutely crazy. It's like, nothing happens at Celtic at all week to week at this point. Every week there's something else that happens. I think my feeling was kind of disappointment, first of all, because I guess you look at his record, I suppose, that was probably being looked at in 23-24 with a view, in my opinion, and with a view to perhaps Brendan Rodgers moving on after his first couple of years and not fulfilling his 3 years. Because I can only imagine that's what people were looking at, what is his record in 2024, which, albeit it was the MLS, his record was pretty good. But 33 days in, 8 games, lost 6, won 2. I struggled to listen to the man, not because of his accent. I had no issues with that. It was just I have this dislike of listening to managers who speak in riddles. And to a certain extent, Brendan Rodgers used to do that as well. I'm much happier with managers such as Ange who, say it how it is and don't talk in riddles and games and play games with everyone. So disappointment, first of all, very angry at the point that we've wasted 33 days. God knows how much money that has cost us in 33 days for him, his team, for Tisdale, and that's in the short term. Long-term losses, well, it could be anything in terms of qualification for any of the European competitions because of where we are now in the league. So I guess David's right. There was a certain anger as well at the end of it, and a bit of kind of inevitability, I suppose. And seeing Martinoneill back, he should never have gone. I think we're all kind of in agreement with that. The sensible thing to have done would have given Martin to the end of the season and see how that went, and then give yourself a bit of time to really get rid of Tisdale, get rid of a couple of other people above him, and look seriously at a real good progressive manager for us with that bit of time. And none of that happened, which was a bit.
Yeah. I distinctly remember there was a moment in time where there was a bunch of managers in the frame, potential managers, and some of the highest ranked ones or the most favourite ones, they were saying they weren't going to be free until the summer. And I was thinking, well, that's grand. We've played 4 games or whatever under O'Neill. Just give it to them, this interim team, until the end of the year. Take your time, get a decent manager in, and then give them a pre-season. That's what every manager needs. But yeah, unfortunately, that wasn't happening. Now, you mentioned Ange, Eddie, which brings us on to, our first sort of question about this whole situation. I saw this in comments on a YouTube video. Honestly believe if Ange had been dealt the same hand as Nancy, he would have also been sacked after 8 games. We don't have the players to succeed with a nice brand of football, and the players were far too closed-minded to properly apply themselves. Ange got Kyogo, Nancy got Kenny. Ange got Abada, Nancy got Tinekti. Ange got a hungry McGregor, Nancy got him past it. And then somebody else pointing out some of the differences in the players there. But David, do you think that's a reasonable point to make, that it was more about timing than anything else?
Timing was definitely a factor. There was no question about what he was coming into. We all knew it. We were all against it. We said, as you've said, that it would have been better to have Martinoneill there, see out the season. Maloney was doing a good job. Why make this change now? So we knew he was coming into a weakened squad, so that was also something that we knew up front. But I think the 2 times were very different, right? Because there was a Dominic Mackay we'd ushered in. Pierre Law was supposedly out the building. There was a kind of freshness and excitement around Celtic at the time. But had Ange come into that, into the same situation as Nancy did, would he have fared any better? I think he would have, and not from anything other than he was on the more mature side towards Martinoneill style, which was pragmatism, leading the men, right, the team. We know very clearly that before Nancy came in, that we had a squad who could win games, however ugly. So no, I don't buy into it. I think Ange would have got results through. He struggled at first. Of course, he didn't have all his own way, and he was able to bring in. But I think Ange would have been able to shape the team better than Nancy. Nancy, for me, was just arrogant and French together. And I think that prevented him from seeing what everybody else could see. Just too much radical change. And I think the results, it wasn't just about the situation he came into. He himself made the situation worse.
Go ahead, Eddie.
I think there were some fundamental differences between the two, regardless of the squad that he was coming into. I think I've already mentioned once that Ange is a bit more of a straight talker. Nancy came in and he said that he wasn't going to dive straight in and put his way of thinking straight into the team. He was going to do it bit by bit. That was a lie. He went straight in and changed it 100% from day one. Now, Ange didn't do that. The other thing that Ange said is, if we will play attacking football, and if we lose 3 goals, we'll score 4. Right? Now, if you just look at the first 8 games, Ange won 4, lost 2, drawn 2, as opposed to the first 8 for Nancy. Now, the goal difference again is huge, comparing the two, those 8 games. So Ange did what he said. If he did lose the games, or he was scoring goals. So there was fundamental differences there, and for me, I'm not saying that Ange would have been the right man for the job to bring him in. From all accounts, he wasn't ready to do that anyway. But he was coming from they're both coming from leagues that we don't know much about, if we're all honest. The Japanese league and the MLS, right? I mean, and we probably haven't heard of either of these two guys. The majority of us, I would guess, at the beginning. But I think from day one, Ange had put a completely different. Even the way Ange was welcomed into the club and presented to the club was chalk and cheese compared to Nancy. So somebody knew something wasn't quite right with Nancy and wasn't the greatest fit. Otherwise, they would have done the same sort of thing as introducing him with Ange.
You mentioned the league he came from, and that's, I think, a key issue, the whole MLS thing. There was one voice on Twitter, which I was following from a long time ago on this Montreal Celtic, back in November, saying what we had just said, which was extend Martinoneill and get the right man for the job, stay away from Nancy. And this account also, was the one that kind of pointed out the holes in Nancy's record, or, the danger of overestimating what he's achieved, and the differences between the MLS and a proper league. The way that it's all sort of regionalised and there's no relegation and you just have to finish in the top 6 to get into a playoff. That's really the key issue. So you can afford to lose games here and there. You can afford to, be the tinker man and have a longer term project and all of this kind of stuff. Do you think, David, it was a bad decision of his to take the Celtic job? Or, he couldn't say no to it because it was his route to Europe?
He didn't seem to prepare himself much. I think again, it's this idea that he's certainly got a bit of arrogance about him, because he spent 15 minutes with Martinoneill, and he could have spent a lot longer than that. I'm sure Martinoneill would have made himself available. So it doesn't seem to me. So there was a link, I think, from his second, assistant manager to what's the boy's name that caused all of this hiring issue? What's his name again? He's just gone up my head. Sleepy Joe.
Tisdale.
What's his name? Tisdale. So they had gone way back, and Tisdale obviously had pulled a fast one and pulled the wool over everyone's eyes. And it doesn't seem to me that Nancy really understood the club. I mean, he made very obvious theatrical errors in his approach, how he presented himself, with the silly little kind of checkerboard, his constant harassing of McGregor every 15 minutes to give him new advice. All of it seemed, he was just, and I actually sort of defended him at the time, because I felt he'd been thrown in and the club could have just done so much more by just taking him aside a bit. So I think I think it stinks of not just him not understanding what he was coming into. He clearly didn't. And I think it was the board who so naively assessed him to be ready mid-season with a depleted squad to be brought in. So they can all take a run, as far as I'm concerned.
Mm-hmm. All right. Okay, let's move it on then. This is a point that Stephen made in our group chat, and it kind of echoes something that Eddie was saying there. The most infuriating thing about the whole farce is that if the money we've wasted on hiring and then firing Nancy and his backroom team, Tisdale's salary and all his pish signings had just been given to Rodgers, backed by a competent recruitment structure, before everything turned sour. we'd be in the Champions League groups, miles in front in the league, and have one trophy in the cabinet and an upward trajectory as a club. Like everybody talks about, last season and where we were against Bayern. And, that Leipzig game for me was the one that just set the hairs on the back of my neck on end. Watching Celtic playing brilliantly in the Champions League against, a big name team, and just thinking, oh, this is awesome. And yeah, if we'd, stepped on the accelerator then instead of all this self-sabotage bullshit, who knows where we could be. Woulda, shoulda, coulda. All right, well, let's move it on a little bit. So Nancy's gone, O'Neill's in. Now then, next thing I want to talk about is something that I wanted to mention the first time around, but it didn't want to be a sort of killjoy in any way because, everyone was so happy that Martin was back in. But you see all this pish about his humour. His humour, I find, makes me cringe quite a lot of the time. Not just his humour itself, but like the way everybody reacts to it, the journalists and ex-players all standing about and everyone's giggling. It just makes me, I don't know whether it's like a mixture of them being obsequious and condescending at the same time. They're all sort of sucking up to him, but it's also because he's a bit of a dottery old uncle, Eddie.
Yeah, I think it's a bit of a double-edged sword in many ways. I think we've all seen. I mean, I certainly have seen in the last few months watching Celtic. It's not a fun time. It hasn't been a fun time for some time for us watching Celtic. And even in the last few weeks, we've seen the Celtic players not enjoying what they're doing. So I guess anything that raises the slightest titter is going to be better than nothing. But you're right. It is a bit like the drunk uncle at the wedding cracking the jokes. That it is a bit like that. And he should. At the end of the day, I think we all kind of realise that, is he really taking the training? Is he doing the tactics? Not really. I think he's there as that hand on the shoulder, that kind of man management side of things, to put a smile on people's faces and players' faces and make them feel better about themselves. I think that's the biggest thing of Martinoneill, sort of Mark III, if you like, is that rather than the tactical. But yeah, you're right. He could do with mentioning his age at 114 or whatever it was he mentioned the other day in his conference, his press conference. He should be staying away from that sort of stuff. But as I say, it's better, to me, it's better than riddles.
He's lightening the mood generally, which is, if that has a positive effect on the players ultimately, then it's all good. Shouldn't care about it, David, right?
I think if you sorry, David.
Go ahead. No, finish, Eddie. Go.
I think it's like any of us. When you get up in the morning and you go to work and you're not enjoying it, then you're not really going to give your best performance. And that's got to be the same for football players as well. At the end of the day, if they wake up in the morning and they know they're getting into a training session that they don't like, they don't want to be there, then they're not going to give their best performances. No one does in work when you're not happy at work. It's pretty basic, really.
Yeah, David.
He's, I think it's deflection, right? So he uses this sort of very obvious, quite sort of patronizing humor, I find it, to be honest, telling me he's 73, etc. Oh, God. Okay. We'll hear that one again and again. And it's kind of, I think it's deflection on his part from having to really deal with the serious issues. I think he probably does all of that behind the scenes with Sean Maloney. I think Maloney's probably the better equipped. I don't think Martinoneill a master psychologist, because then how would you know if he was a master psychologist? You wouldn't know. So I don't buy into but I don't buy into the Martinoneill, the St. Martin stuff either. Sorry, he offended me because he raised Jock Stein against the fans when the fans didn't need to be told what was going wrong, because the fans were telling everybody else what was wrong. He then said, the fans got to get him because it's going to be chaos. No, that's just, again, no. Don't tell me that. Shut up if you're going to come up with all that crap. Because we've known and been shouting about this for quite some time, that it's your bosses, the ones that you cozy up to. I don't buy it. So no St. Martin for me. But I do believe that the playing squad will work under him in a better way, and then our chances of doing something in the league have now increased. So I'll put up with it, but I don't buy it.
Yeah. Paddy Lavery pointing out that Martin O'Neill went to St. Max, he says, which is shorthand for St. Malachy's College in Belfast, where I went. Obviously, many years after Martin.
He studied law at first at Belfast University.
At Queen's, yeah. Or he was due to go there before he became a professional. So, yeah. Okay, but let's move it on here. What's the next thing? Yes, Paul Tisdale, as you say, this is an article by Andy Muirhead, who I think maybe divides opinion a bit, but I like this article. Paul Tisdale's calamitous tenure at Celtic, a study in systemic failure and board incompetence. You know, that drills down into all the reasons why he should never have been given the job that he got at Celtic and why he should never have been in charge of bringing others in who should never have been brought into Celtic. It's just layers of incompetence. Absolutely shocking. And like, where are we now, with, now that he's gone and everyone's talking, well, we'll come on to the January transfer window in due course, but it's a pretty sorry state of affairs, isn't it?
It's across. It's the total incompetence of the board to address the stadium, the fan engagements, development of the digital presence, the add-on value of engaging with fans to sell financial products, to develop the Celtic TV, develop the youth squad, to sort out our scouting system, to treat players in such a way that we now don't have much love from Japan and Japanese players where we've got so much success. It's up and down. Tisdale is just one part of an absolute mess, and it's not going to be addressed anytime soon, because I think the Martinoneill thing is just slip that on over, and I think this is what it is that will keep them quiet for a while till we kind of figure ourselves out, if they intend to do that. But my suspicion is not. I think they're just buying themselves time and want us to keep quiet.
Well, the title of this show, Eddie, on YouTube is Desperate Desmond's Latest Move in Season of Mayhem. I mean, this has got to be his, as it's mentioned, a Hail Mary. This has to work. What else is there this season? If this doesn't work, Eddie.
Yeah, but he can't chop and change again. He can't. He's got to stick with us. He's got to stick or bust, really. I agree with David on Tisdale and the people above him. And I mean, we ended up with Nancy simply because of that connection with Ampadu, the assistant of his. I mean, that's where that connection came, obviously. And you're quite right, he should never have been in that role. But I suppose the other concerning thing is every time Martinoneill speaks, it's about conversations he's had directly with Desmond, not with anybody else, not with Michael Nicholson, not with Mackay, not with anybody else, just Desmond. So that's worrying. Once again, we've got Desmond, sort of the puppet master.
Well, that's always the case. That's just the reality, isn't it?
But to go back to your question, it is he's hit a bust basically. He can't chop and change again in this season. He's now got to stick with the cards he's played with Martinoneill and Sean Maloney and Foz. That's what he's got to do, regardless of what the results are. I mean, you can go back when Martinoneill came in and he took over from Barnes and Dalglish, right? I mean, and that's a completely bizarre comparison. But it's almost like that, as you say. It's another kind of Hail Mary. It's like, well, we're in the trouble here. Help us again, I'd love to have been a fly on the wall that second phone call, but it strikes me that if Desmond, it's got to be an embarrassing call. But I don't think it is to him. I don't think he even feels that he's embarrassingly calling Martinoneill for a second time. I don't think it's there.
Mm-hmm. David, people are wondering if you're a bit deflated today, not in good form. You're mute anyway, so maybe you are deflated.
Well, thank you for picking up on. I am. I'm kind of just. I'm scunnered. I'm genuinely scunnered. Now, there's nothing else in my personal life that makes me this way. I'm very happy. It's just. It's kind of you get to the point of just frustration of having to point out the obvious time and time again. And it's, I'd love to be in a situation. So I'm very glad that Nancy's gone. I think our chances of the season it has increased. So I'm good with that. That's great. But I don't like being treated as a fool. Oh, again and again and again and again. So, and I can't join the happy clap for Martinoneill. So yeah, I do feel a bit just talking about this bothers me somewhat, and but we'll talk about how spectacular the transfer window's going to be in January, aren't we?
Well, see, nobody expects that because we've all become accustomed to what we consider to be failures of management, unlike what Gaddafi is saying here. DD has never let us down, says he. Maybe this is a good time for us to play the latest version of our Where's the Ambition video. Eddie, I don't know if you're familiar with this, but this is a Celtic World's way of raising the real question to the real person when it comes to fan discontent.
Instead of this settling for mediocre, imagine what we could be.
So that's really the answer, Eddie, or the question. Where is the ambition? All those years where we had such a golden opportunity to just become a modern, progressive Champions League club. And instead, Desmond and his fellas have sort of presided over just this Goldilocks period of scooping up trophies. They didn't have to do much to be domestically successful. And now when you look at it, you see Hearts with their Jamestown Analytics, or Jonestown Analytics as I call them, and Motherwell, these other clubs sort of modernising and bringing in people who are involved in the modern game. And there's a risk that our continued bowling club mentality could indeed see us slide further back. I mean, it's hard to argue with all of this given where we are right now, isn't it, Eddie?
It is, and I mean, if you even take it back to players that we bring in, I mean, players that come to Celtic but are always said to be ambitious, right? So they although we don't like it sometimes, they're ambitious to use Celtic as a stepping stone and move forward, right? So the idea is that the players we bring in should be ambitious. We also all want ambitious managers to come in, so we don't want people who are looking backwards. Here we are sitting with Martinoneill. But the fundamental thing is you've got a board who have absolutely zero ambition whatsoever, simply because they've sat there and rotted for years and years and years and not moved forward with the rest of us. There's 60,000 fans in the stadium who have moved forward more than that board have moved forward. And they're not getting paid the bucks that these guys are getting paid. They haven't got the opportunities that these guys have to look at the big wide world and bring in people who are ambitious, who are forward thinking, who are looking at new ways of doing things. They just haven't. And I mean, to go back to the Jamestown analytics, one of my things about Hearts not winning the league, and I really hope they do not win this league, is this will be the big story. It will be Jamestown analytics that have made the big change in Scottish football. And that I want to avoid like the plague, as well as Hearts or Rangers winning the league, because that will just show us up even more that we've just been sitting in a dark room like with the mushrooms all the way through for the last 20 years or so. And I mean, look at the opportunities that we had when Rangers were not even in the league. I mean, that's when we should have put our foot in the neck and really moved forward. But there was nobody in that board who were lethal enough to do it, unfortunately. And that's what we need. We need new blood in there. We need people to look at this differently and be ambitious to move forward. But these guys don't. They're just happy in the tiny little pond that they're playing in.
Yeah. David, you have anything to say on our latest version of the video?
Well, no, it's just great to see the addition of the Japanese and the Hawaii stuff. So that's really good. I think, hopefully we can get that out to more people. And if it's not already up on YouTube, and ask everybody to go and like it and share it and tell people and point towards it. I did have a wry smile to myself there when the video was playing, because I figured out actually why I'm not coming enthusing as much, because normally when I do the show, I'm half pissed and I'm not drinking today. So I'll make sure that
that's the missing ingredient.
It is a missing ingredient, because usually I have a right, because I look forward to it, coming on and talking, and I've got whatever you see in my flask isn't water, but today I'm not. So I think I figured that out. I think to that comment that was up there just before about, ambition costs money, I think there's just some false economics that goes on at Celtic right now, because in a lot of firms, they'll take on gearing as a means by which they can offset tax to put themselves and take on projects, and that isn't something that Celtic do. Celtic have even admitted themselves that storing up such cash isn't necessarily a good business model, but someone is telling them to do so. And it is either, I think, Lawwell, who is just running about looking for the pennies, and that's his approach, and that's just who he is. And for some reason, that might be tied to whatever dividends they pay themselves. It could be that Desmond is the one who likes to see that cash, so that if he needed it one day for one of his other businesses, because I don't buy into his Celtic fan stuff and the family and hand down and all the rest of it. And I think there's just this lack of ambition shows itself in everything that they do. You can touch on any part of Celtic, the stadium, Celtic TV, the digital presence. I mean, the only things they seem to do well are the unique angle stuff. And I think the other thing that the board makes mistake about is that they believe, I genuinely believe they think they're above us. I think they think we're a bunch of shipyard workers who, left school at 15, and that's who we are. And the problem that they face is that genuinely, I think there's many, many, many Celtic fans who watch that, who are far better qualified to run companies, who are better lawyers, who are better accountants, who are better physicists, who are better, psychologists, who are better artists, who are better producers. And I think, across the support, the capabilities, and the humour that can be found in some of the stuff that the Green Brigade do, there's an opportunity there to tap into all of that, but they don't want that, because that would mean they'd have to face up to the reality that they themselves aren't quite as qualified and capable as they wonder if they do know or don't know. But it's a kind of Glasgow University accent club that they want to sit with and lolls after his place in UEFA and whatever else. So
St. Aloysius old boys, isn't it?
Exactly right. And no offense to my nephews who went there, but but absolutely, it's that kind of, they've almost created this old school establishment, because they even, what an idiot of Ross Desmond to use the establishment. You're anti-establishment. You're fucking right, we are. Yeah, that's exactly who we are, but not at the cost of the club. So it's just their inability to reach out, and that Nicholson has on his door a post-it which says "must engage more with the fans," and he told people that. Oh my God! So, yeah, maybe I'm cheered up now when I think about that. Makes me laugh more than Martinoneill does.
Yeah. Well, this makes me laugh. Here, I just want to get this word in, Eddie. Talking of hoarding money. That's Paddy Lavery encouraging people to hit the like button because Gav needs the money. Hitting the like button will not do anything financial for me or anyone at a Celtic World. You may notice that we don't have YouTube ads or any other monetization. Well, can't even say the word monetization on the site. So yeah, that might change. We might have a sponsor one day, maybe one day soon, a very relevant sponsor, who knows. But, we'll never charge anyone for our content, that's for sure. And we won't, have YouTube ads popping up left, right and centre. So all of that's a pretty good reason, I think, not to hit like, but to hit subscribe, get those numbers up. And with that out of the way, over to you, Eddie.
No, I was just going to say with David that Nicholson thinks that's communication to the fans. By telling them he's got a post-it note saying better communication with the fans. He thinks he's communicated by saying that. Yep. That's how crackers it is with these guys. They're so out of touch. Absolutely so out of touch. Okay,
let's move it on. So, I don't know if you saw the Lennoxtown Unfiltered. Speaking of things that the club do well, this was like a 7-minute video of the training going on up at the glorious Lennoxtown in the pissing rain and freezing cold. So there's some of the comments. First team should be using the dome at Barrafield in this shit weather. But Barrafield was made more for the women's team, wasn't it? That's my understanding. So have you been up to Lennoxtown, either of you? I was there last time I was back in Scotland. It was pissing the rain so much I couldn't even get out of the car. We drove past where you're supposed to not go past. They say no unauthorized vehicles. And I was like, come on, let's go in our wee hire car. So we went up to the gate, and you could see the building and that, and where the pitches, the slopes of the sides of the pitches. But it was raining so hard we couldn't even get out. It was dreich, as you would say. And I feel for these, guys training up there, that kind of weather. Absolutely brutal. Whereas Barrafield's nice and cozy, isn't it?
Yeah. I have to say that version of the Lennoxtown Unfiltered was 7 minutes. Up until now, all I've seen is 1 minute, 1 minute 30, 2 minutes. But that was actually the longest one I've seen. And you could actually hear what was being said a lot of the time as well during that 7 minutes. So I'm not sure whether this is an attempt to make the communications better and more, open to the fan base. But certainly it's a small, tiny step in the right direction.
Yeah. Here's another comment I saw underneath that video on YouTube. Somebody saying, I might get criticism for saying this, but I'll try and qualify myself first. I'm a Celtic fan, but I've also competed up to international level in athletics. I can't believe the players are allowed to warm up and train with shorts on. It's no surprise to me that the squad has so many hamstring injuries. It's not about how hard you might be. It's about raising and maintaining the core temperature of the hamstrings/muscles during training and the positive impact that has on muscle damage and recovery. Who'll be the next to limp off after a game? David, are you an expert in keeping your hamstrings and other muscles at key temperature?
No, I was just kind of very quickly there as you were discussing that, looking at, I don't know if you've watched any of the Birmingham FC stuff with, what's his name, taking over. What's the American dude, the American footballer?
Oh, yeah.
Hugely
Giselle's
famous guy.
husband.
And
the
then
most famous American footballer in the world. What's his name?
I
Eddie?
can't even know.
No
What's
idea.
his
Tom
name?
Brady.
Somebody else. Tom Brady.
Tom Brady. There we go. And it was, and it was interesting too. One of the things that that was interesting in there was that his comments about how when what's his name, who was the Man U player, was the manager, Wayne Rooney. When he was the manager, and he could point to a whole bunch of stuff. I should get more pissed, shouldn't I? I can remember stuff. And it's like I can speak French when I'm pissed, but I can't sober. So when he was there and he came in and he immediately identified the need for improvements on all aspects of how the players were physically training, psychology, and approach. And it wouldn't. I can only imagine that someone, again, we have people available. You're looking at a Celtic fan who's in that comment talked about being at top level athletics and pointing out the very obvious. I mean, even to someone like me who never played at that level or at any athletic level at that standard, that makes perfect sense. And why is that not the case? But again, it's not. It comes as nothing of a shock to hear those kind of comments being made about the approach at Celtic. I think it requires a new approach in almost every area of the team, including the approach, because it's clear that some things are amiss with the number of injuries that we've got in the depleted squad. That's another thing that we have to take care of.
Well, another comment as a result of that training video was someone saying that they reckon they can tell from that video who's going to be starting the game. They can tell from that 7-minute clip of watching who was playing that this is going to be the lineup. The outfield players: Araujo, Murray, Trusty, KT, Cal, Hatate, Negrin, Yang, McCowan, and Dyson. So let's revisit that and see if that was prophetic or indeed pathetic. Yeah.
Be interesting. I mean, I thought not sure whether he will, but I'm a big advocate for leaving Schmeichel out for a while. I don't know. I'll probably get stick for that, but I've always said that Schmeichel's signing and was just lazy. It was just a lazy signing. I said it from day one. I was derided in the club for it, but to me, it was a very lazy signing. I don't see why that guy with that amount of timber should be in that goal with one arm.
Yeah, he was big when he signed.
I'm with you, Eddie, all the way.
He was big
totally
when he
agree.
signed. I remember the Rangers fans saying, Schmeichel's fat, and other Celtic podcasts laughing at them for saying that. But I was thinking, he totally is. He's got a fair gut on him. Take it from one who knows how to try and hide these things.
Yeah.
And he wasn't hiding it in that bib, was he? I played football a couple of weeks ago, and I was like trying to work out, what kind of coloured tops do we need to wear? And they said, just everyone come with a white top on. We've got bibs. And that was my first thought was, oh shit, I'm gonna have to stretch a bib over me. And my tops are well curated, to be as forgiving as possible, but bibs leave nowhere to hide for the moobs and things. So not ideal. Yeah, but everyone's seeing that. Yeah, I mean, a lot of keepers in the old days were kind of, a bit big on it, weren't they? Southall was fat. Yeah, but these days they're all supposed to be supreme athletes, aren't they? It's a different
It's
game.
2026. It's 2026. These guys are expected to be almost outfield players at the back, so they've got to be swift and they've got to be fit. So, again, we're looking backwards again like the board. We shouldn't be. It's 2026. Things change, unfortunately.
Eddie, I think this Sinisalo, even whether or not he inspires confidence or not, I think the very fact that Schmeichel's not fit, that should just bar him from the team straight away. That it should just be, and fine him. He should be getting fined, right? Never mind getting, first team select every time.
And it's a poor indictment in Sinisalo that he cannot get in that team, if you think about it.
I think it's because all these new managers are coming in and they don't have the luxury of time to try the young fella. They just think, oh, play it safe, stick with the big name.
But I'll go back to Nancy again about doing some research on the team you're about to join. So, he clearly didn't do enough research about the team he was joining, Nancy, with regards to dealing with Desmond and how he treats managers, how he treats everything else in the club. And it's the same for everybody else. You should be looking and doing some research into that and saying, well, why is this guy not getting a game? How come the Michelin man, as was put in the comments, is in ahead of Sinisalo? And if Sinisalo is not as good, perceived not to be as good as Schmeichel, then a goalkeeper should be on our wish list for January. I know that's difficult to do, but if we're looking at it and the best we can put out there is Schmeichel, then we've got a problem. We really need to be looking for a goalkeeper as well as a striker.
Sinisalo's
on the wish
height?
list.
What height is Sinisalo?
Don't know.
It feels like he's a bit taller than Schmeichel to me, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Well, he's just
later.
Wide.
Who did and that team that you put up there that someone said they'd guessed based on what they saw of the training? Did they pick a keeper?
No, there was no keeper mentioned.
Yeah.
Because I guess goalkeepers train separately, I suppose. All right, so January transfer window. Let's move it on to that. I saw a YouTube thumbnail with one of these conversations with Sutton and Boydie, as people like to call them. Arms race wins the title, is what they said. Now, that suggests it's everyone's at the same starting point going into the January transfer window. So I want to ask that question first. Our squad under O'Neill, is that any better or on a par with Hearts and Rangers pre-transfer window squad? Eddie, where do you think we stand?
If we had the big names back, if we had AJ, CCV, Jota, etc. back, then we may be. But where we are at the moment, we're looking at March or April for some of these players to come back. Where we are at the moment, I don't know enough, to be fair, about Hearts or Rangers. I don't know enough about the squads. My gut feeling is that we are not a strong enough squad as we are. I do think we need a number of signings in. The ones that we've been attached to so
everybody
far,
needs signings in, Eddie. The question is, at this starting point, where are we relative to Hearts and Rangers? Leaving aside what business they do and what business we do, do we still have the best squad, do you think, in the league if we get playing?
I'd like to think so, but I have my doubts.
Mm-hmm. David?
I think we do. I think it's marginal. I think if the squad as is with none of the other players returning, I think we can always say that if you looked at whenever they were playing football well, they could put teams under real pressure. And you could see, but that only ever happened in patches and in the first half, of course. But if you're looking at the capabilities of the players, I think you'd have to say that they are a better squad of players and that we can have them. I think, they are. I think overall, I have to think, I'm thinking on my feet because I haven't really considered that. I know that we need to strengthen. if we want to secure the league, and we want to do, I'm concerned about, like Eddie, I don't know what it is that Hearts have done. I know that they'd already been buying in players, so they've acted already, and that's a concern. Just the very fact of intent, and so even if they're buying, I don't know what their buying model is, what their spending cap is. I don't know any of that. Rangers, honestly, are just rank rotten. They're a terrible squad. I think they're rotten. So I think we're really talking about Hearts, and I would need to see how they come back after the January transfer window to then make an assessment. I think that's my only.
We're all going into the window, and one team will do better out of the window than the next. But that was why I'm interested to know, do you think we're on a par? Are we slightly ahead? Because, it wouldn't be surprising if Hearts did better business this window than us. That would surprise nobody.
I think they probably have been more focused on the football, less on the dramatic events outside of football, because we just seem to be going from one situation to another. And it's pretty clear that the planning around Celtic has gone down, has been managed downwards as well. So I agree. I think there's every chance that they could come out stronger. We'll have to see.
I think they've already made 3 signings that have strengthened the squad, from what I understand.
Right. Yeah. See, that is a bit of a worry.
In the very places they identified that they had weaknesses, which is something we don't often do. No. We tend to bring in players, but not actually in the places where we've identified weakness.
Exactly. So who have we been linked with? Do you think there's any transfer rumours that have any legs at the moment? Have you been staying on top of it, David, or are you waiting for it to sort of coalesce into something more meaningful?
I think so. I mean, people react emotionally to this and start putting out that, Kyogo is Birmingham City, he's not getting a game there, let's go for him and whatever else. I mean, I think Kyogo would score for us, but is that serious? Is that likely? I don't think so. Dembele's name came up this morning on the North American show as well. But he's 38 and living in Saudi, I think. I have not seen any names that have been put around that look serious and intent and have made me go onto YouTube and see what the reels are like. So, not aware.
Well, there is the name of one guy. Oh, damn it. I had a tweet here.
Seager was the first Canadian international.
That's right. And where does he play?
Hajduk Split or somewhere. I think some weird.
Hajduk Split. Now, do you think he'd be itching to get out of that footballing backwater of Hajduk Split and come to Glasgow? Do you have any idea what Split looks like? It's absolutely gorgeous place. Here's some pictures of it. I can't get over Split. It's like up there with one of the places I'd like to visit most, I think, in Europe. There was a guy who I went to school with who used to go on holiday to Yugoslavia. And I used to think, that sounds grim, going to Yugoslavia. But this is where he was going. And it looks absolutely fantastic. Croatia, eh? Not bad, David.
Beautiful. Wouldn't drag me away for that.
Anyone been to Croatia? Have you been to Croatia, Eddie?
I was in Split a long time ago, many years. Yeah. Thoroughly enjoyed the place, but I mean, I don't think it was anything like it is now. I mean, I'm talking 20, 25 years ago, probably a long time ago.
Yeah. Let me see if I can get this tweet up about the agent. The fact that, there's this agent that we all of our players seem to be associated with. Matt O'Reilly, Leila Bada, Callum McGregor, this guy Nico Sigur, and Josip Juranovic. So that's probably where this has come from. So we're talking about, Hearts having this database, data-driven search that pulls up these, diamonds from obscure second divisions and places. Then they come to Hearts, like your man Braga, and set the place alight. And the best we can do is hope that some of the agents in the phone book, have a gem or two lurking there to be offered to us. That seems to be where we are, isn't it?
I suspect that actually Celtic are not a preferred club now in terms of the move to put them in the shop window for Europe. I don't think that's attractive anymore. And it seems to me, I've heard enough, that Lowell's dealings with other clubs and the way in which he, penny pinches actually puts a lot of clubs off even dealing with us. I mean, we're not like Sevco who, over a period couldn't afford and still own money out. But I think it would not surprise me if our approach to dealings put agents off.
Yeah, sure.
I think there was a couple of conflicting stories about him as well, wasn't there? That it was on hold because of the Nancy sacking, and then it came out that actually there has been communications, but not to anywhere near a closing level. So he's still quite far off, and I think he's right back from memory. He plays right back. So
Who's this?
Sigur, the guy you've just been talking about. He's
like a central midfielder, isn't he? A defensive midfielder.
Defensive.
Yeah, like a McGregor assistant stroke heir or successor, I think is the idea. Yeah, so people are liking the split talk. Brian Warrior's being the split with the UN, give an APC full of Russians 200 fags as they hadn't been paid in 3 months. You have to read that message quite carefully so you don't misunderstand it. Mahesh reckons it'd be a good place to work in his tan. Yeah, a lot of work to be done. Sean Maloney, people saying, oh, he's got good contacts. He knows a few people. He's been keeping his eye on the ball. It's like, for God's sake. Anybody else got any good ideas in this room? Is that the approach that they have? Anyone else? Anyone else anything to offer?
It was interesting.
Dubrovnik is also nice. Sorry, Eddie, go ahead.
It was interesting that Sean Maloney was sat next to Tisdale at the last game, wasn't it? So, interesting.
Only seat available.
Yeah.
Just to keep him awake. All right, well, we've got a couple of minutes left here, so right, we're previewing the next game, so let's do that in the way we used to do it. Here's the table. Oh no, that's the form guide, thankfully. Look where we are in the form guide. Look at Rangers in the form guide.
Yep.
That does not make pretty reading compared to ours.
Yeah.
That is pretty bad. We're 9th in terms of form in the last 6 games. But, that's in the past, which is, I'm sure, the message Martin will be saying. Forget about everything that went before. I'm back. We're here. These are the games we've got ahead of us. Now, sort yourselves out. You're good players. Let's go. This is what the table currently looks like. We're in 3rd. Now, if Martin O'Neill does, do a good job, this will be what people will point back to and say, we were in 3rd place when he took over. And we mightn't be in 3rd for very long. Hopefully not. But, yeah, that's the reality of the situation. And Motherwell are right behind. Hibs aren't far off either. We're closer to Hibs than we are to Hearts. Closer to Hibs in 5th than we are to table toppers Hearts. So yeah, we certainly can't pretend everything's tickety-boo. What are we expecting from the next run of results, the next run of fixtures? Well, coming up, Celtic against Dundee United in the Premiership. Then we are away to Falkirk. Then Auchinleck Talbot in the Scottish Cup. And then Bologna in the Europa League. And then away to Hearts. So there's a chance that there's a few winnable games there, those top 3, wouldn't you say, David?
Yeah, I would say so. I expect a win. I think we'll get a bounce from the players and the team and just some normalcy in the play. I think we'll expect a 4-3-3 or something like that. It's back to kind of business. Dundee United, I think the last time they played us, they beat us 2-1 or something like that.
2-1, yeah.
2-1. But I do think we'll win this game. Falkirk, of course, you've got to fancy us. Auchinleck Talbot, I think now that Nancy's not there, they'll be less happy about that. Bologna will gub us, and then we have to worry about Hearts. But maybe by then we've got a sort of pattern of win in place, some tempo.
And a striker.
And a striker or some,
For our
cavalry.
international viewers, Eddie, where is Auchinleck?
Absolutely no idea.
David,
do you have any clue where Auchinleck is? I've done no research, so I don't know.
Is that? I don't know. I think I just remember it being in the what's it? Auchinleck? Is it down Kilmarnock, Ayrshire way? Is that right?
Yeah, I think
because it's kind of like I think that is in it's kind of a Hun stronghold. Apparently, I think I remember something about that. I don't know. Maybe that's
it's being played at Kilmarnock, right? Games at Kilmarnock.
Let's know in the comments. Ayrshire, yeah. Franny reckons somewhere down Ayrshire way.
Yeah.
I think the thing about Martinoneill is he's got a lot of away games there. I know there's a couple of smaller teams there, but there's a lot of away games before you trek.
There are, yeah. 4 out of the 5, in fact.
Exactly. And then next game after that, you trek. So
East Ayrshire.
Wow.
It's a tough run.
It is a tough run. You'll note that I'm using Sky Sports here for this because in everything they do, David, it's hard to look at one area of the club and see what they do right. Even the fucking simple thing like this, giving you local times. There's an 11 p.m. kickoff, 03:45. Okay, that's looking okay so far. Auchinleck Talbot, there's no way that's at 5:30 in my evening. No, that would be like a morning kickoff back home. So, they can't even get that right. And then it goes back to my local time for Bologna. So, world class in everything we do, Eddie.
Everything, yes. Certainly some kind of class, but not world class, I would say.
Wayne's World.
Pork Chop Express saying, need to pick players with decent hamstrings for the run-in. Can he buy injury doubts? Oh, that's players he means to purchase. But talking of picking players, this was O'Neill's last team that he picked, with the exception of Sarachi. Do you think it's going to look much like that, Eddie?
I'd love that Sinisalo would be in goal. My feeling is he'll probably go back to Ralston and Ralston, Scales and Tierney in the back four. And I think the front three will be. I'd like to see a front three of I guess Yang and Maeda in the middle, but I doubt whether he'll do any of that.
Mm-hmm. Remains to be seen. Well, just before we wrap it up, here's a quick message.
How's it, bro? Loving a Celtic world. It's fantastic. Definitely worth a subscribe, hey.
Definitely. Now, I notice in the comments there's no sign of one of our favourite viewers who often comments, and I saw an image that somebody sent to me in my hometown here, and it made me think of him. See what it says on the back of this car. It's 420 somewhere. So if you're watching this video after it's gone out, 420 somewhere, drop us a comment. Let us know how much you enjoyed that little homage to your username. The other thing, before we go, Eddie.
Yeah.
Before we go, there's a thing we used to do, which is kind of like, a pictorial representation of a Celtic player, present or past. And I thought we weren't going to have all that much to talk about, so I'd drop one in today. But we've already gone like an hour and 4 minutes. But anyway, we have it. So would you like to play Celtic catchphrase? Say what you see?
I'll give it a go.
All right. You can play along at home too, folks. I'll put this up. We'll give the people at home a wee second to see if they can work it out before we make our suggestions. Celtic player, present or past. So Eddie and David, you can see if you can work that out, but don't say anything just yet. We'll give people back at home a chance. Brown Warrior pointing out that 420 is the Smokers' Day. Well, we know what 420 is. It's actually, the 20th of April.
I think I got that one. I'll leave it for a minute.
Dedicated to that. So anyone in the comments want to proffer a guess as to who this might be? And can you work out each element of it? Don't see anyone having a stab at it in the live chat. All right, well, we have to fill the vacuum somehow. So, Eddie, do you want to talk us through those images and who you think it represents?
I think it's probably Pierre Van Hooijdonk, isn't it?
Very good. Break it down for us.
Well, the Pierre there at the beginning with the Van. I don't know the middle bit though, unless it's Hun. But yeah.
Well, there's Pier, and then Van, and
Yeah.
then Oi. You know the music, Oi. The kind
Ah,
of punk sort of movement. Oi dunk. Pier, Van, Oi dunk. Does that cause you any annoyance, David, or do you think that was quite nice?
No, I got into the game and found him, so I was already there.
There you go. Franny, we have to assume, was on the ball there, getting Pierre Van Hooijdonk. I like some of the suggestions. Piss Van Bootnet. Yeah, he was a great striker for us, underrated, I'd have said.
I think he was an anti-player, wasn't he?
That's Monty showing us how much he enjoyed that little Celtic catchphrase. All right. Well, look, thanks very much, lads. It's been a lot of fun. Look forward to the next game. It's never boring, is it? Being a Celtic fan this season. It's fucking hard, though. It's pretty hard. I just like, when you think of the times when we were just coasting and loving watching the games and there was goals and everybody's just happy all the time. It's like, well, if you want the rainbows, you got to put up with the rain. You know which philosopher said that?
No idea.
Dolly Parton. And some people think she's just a great big pair of tits. That's straight from The Office. All right. On that bombshell, sorry for the blatant sexism. I'm quoting a popular TV show. All right. Thanks, everyone in the chat. As always, it's been a delight. Wasn't Willie Van de jerk off, but keep up the guesses. All right. We'll see you on Monday's show. Until then, farewell. Thanks, Eddie, and hail, hail.
Hail, hail.
Yo, yo.